in from tonight?
Hi, this is
USS
Ravi here.
Enterprise.
Hey, Ravi.
USS Enterprise.
Hey, Jim, how are you?
Hey,
Nicely
Toby, how
done.
you doing?
Doing great.
Hi,
Okay.
Toby.
Hello.
Matt Anderson from Kansas City. What?
Hi, Jazz.
What?
How's it going, Jesse?
What?
Mhm.
What is this, a Jesse reunion here?
We've met a few times.
Yeah. Hey, Matt.
Randy from outside
Calgary,
Chicago.
Canada. Gainesville,
Hey,
Florida.
Meenakshi. I am from Toronto.
Hey, Ravinder.
New Zealand.
Janet from Calgary. Oh my goodness.
Anoop is coming all the way
Somebody's
from
up early.
All right. Shall we start introducing our esteemed speaker tonight for Enterprise Agility Champs?
Absolutely.
We have Jesse Fewell, who needs no introduction. As you can tell, everyone walked into the room saying, hi, Jesse. But we will still do the honor of letting and sharing our love for Jesse, which is he's an amazing leader who has brought this perceived chasm of PMI versus Agile world or universe together. And we are so grateful that he shares his knowledge generously on both sides and brings them together. He, very few people know that Jesse actually co-authored the last 3 PM box. So that's 5, 6, 7. And there are 2 other publications. And he's also a certified trainer, training trainers in the area of Agile. He's an author with Untapped Agility. You've got to read that book if you have not yet. Over to you, Jesse, because we're all dying to share the real material.
We're all excited to get into this. Well, thank you for the introduction, Meenakshi. Hi, everybody. I am Jesse, and I am an Agile champion. Just like all of you, we're here because we want to see our organizations grow and evolve into more than they've ever been, more than they could be, and to move out of kind of an old 20th century way of working, which is bureaucracy and authoritarian leadership and gridlock, and move into 21st century culture, 21st century awesomeness, where we can empower people to do more than they've ever done before and thrive, and like a more humane workplace. That's what we believe as Agilists. But tonight we're going to talk about how we actually get in the way. Sometimes the best of intentions, you know what they say, are the pavement for the bad destinations.
No,
So,
I think it's the road to hell.
Yes, Jim, indeed. So we're gonna explore this. We're gonna explore, like, how might we get in our own way, and before we get into it, what I want to share with you is some logistics. Number one, I'm going to invite all of your questions to come towards the end, because it's likely that either an aha or a question will be addressed during the content. And then we are going to have like a solid 15, maybe even 20 minutes just to talk shop with each other. I've been putting a lot of effort into putting this together, and I want to make sure that we cover the material that you've shown up for. And then also we'll have a focused dialogue towards the end. So with that, let me just open up with a quote to kind of emphasize the reality here a little bit. When people are told, don't be a troublemaker, don't make mischief in the world. People generally respond, oh, no, I'm not the problem. I'm a peacemaker. I'm here to make all things better. But people don't realize they are indeed the people that say that. No, 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 I'm totally the solution here. They don't realize that they actually might be causing trouble. It's a great quote from the Quran that kind of illustrates that blind spot. And you know, we could quote the Buddha, we could quote Christ, we could quote them all, but they're all there to tell us, you know, you think you're on the right side of this, but you might have a blind spot. And in particular, I'm going to share with you 3 key studies that just came out. The 15th State of Agile report. This thing's I'm going to say it's about 10 months old now. The new one is due to come out in a couple of months. Every year ish, there's a new one to come out. Also, there's the 2022 International Coach Federation Consumer Awareness Study, the single largest study on coaching ever done. Just came out. And then there's just came out this past month, the State of Agile Coaching Report, jointly sponsored by the Scrum Alliance, the International Consortium from Agile, and the Business Agility Institute. So this is a report, the State of Agile Coaching Report is multi-representative. That's not even a word. It's represented, it's sponsored by 3 different organizations that have 3 different tribes. And so it tried to be more than just one clique or one group. So this is an interesting cross data. We got kind of the Agile community as a whole, the coaching community as a whole, and then a very targeted report on coaches. And the 4 blind spots that we're going to cover, I promised you 4. We're going to talk about a misperception about our mandate, a misperception about the pathway to agility, a misperception about the audience that it is we're reaching out to, and a misperception about our skills. All right, cool typo. Our skills blind spot. So let's get started first. I want to first start with the fundamental mandate, the mandate of Agile coaching, the charter, if you will. And so I'm going to very quickly, in the chat window, please stay muted. In the chat window, I would like you to type up just a couple of words, not a paragraph, maybe a complete sentence. What is the job anyway? I'm curious if we're going to actually get much in the way of agreement. This is a question that I'm not sure there's a lot of agreement on. And the last year's report kind of illustrated this a little bit. So I'm looking here, help teams improve. Awesome. Good one, Randy. Matt is talking about facilitating the delivery of outcomes. Jenna, serve the client. Jim, enable people to excel. And Eric, it depends. My job is whatever you'd like it to be, client. Here's my invoice. You're welcome. I'm with you there, Eric. Peter, supporting individuals, teams, and organizations to improve. There's that word improve again. And facilitate success of teams, program, portfolio. Find the outcome the client's looking for and use agility to help move them towards the outcome. YJ, that's awesome. Tracy, increase learning and adoption for better outcomes. Help organizations, says Isabella, help them adopt Agile practices for delivery improvement efficiencies. Remember Isabella's quote there. Help organizations adopt Agile practices and delivery improvement and efficiencies. Okay, just put a pin in that one. Brendan, also servant leader. Servant leadership. Agile coaching is about being in service. You're an influencer leader, but you're also in service to those that are around you to help them deliver value and get work. Stella, about delivering faster values and ROI. Frank, help others. Gail, facilitate delivery of value. Ravinder, collaborate with people, bring the team together, and so on. This is Shauna. What's up, Shauna? Support individuals, teams, and organizations in their growth. Ife, partner with individuals, organizations to find solutions. Isabella, you're not in trouble. Isabella, it turns out your definition is probably the closest we have to anything in the way of a consensus. Most of the answers that you guys posted are a little bit more elevated, a little bit more enlightened, altruistic, if you will, about service and about helping our organizations and teams improve and helping them move forward. Well, what came out of the report was this. It was this, that we don't really know. We don't agree what the job of Agile coaching is, but we got to have something. So here what they said is we define an Agile coach as someone who helps organizations, teams, and individuals adopt Agile practices and methods while embedding the values and the mindsets. So that's what this report is saying, is the closest that we can come to in the way of a consensus about what this job is. And it's a little bit different. Isabella, tapped into what's mostly a consensus, but many of us didn't talk much about Agile methods at all in our comments, because as coaches, that seems to be, well, at least in this community, this audience, it seems to be not as important. But then if you go on LinkedIn and you do a search, there are 10,000, actually, there are 10,000 open Agile coach positions right now on LinkedIn. But there are tens, hundreds of thousands of people calling themselves Agile coaches right now. And they're all about the practices and methods. And so what I want to do is I want to say, is that really, if that's our consensus as a community, what does the data say about Agile methods? Well, let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at that. There we go. Take a look at that State of Agile report. This is the most common. This data is actually consistent year over year. The only thing that changes year over year, about 1 or 2 percentage points. It's relatively consistent over the last 5 years. And there's 4 key points about Agile practices. Agile practice, the things that we know are proven practice to get you to awesomeness, to get you to improvement, to get you to, well, one of the first things, it might be not much of a surprise, but meetings are not enough. 81% of all Agilists that respond to this report hold all 4 of the meetings: iteration planning, daily stand-up, iteration review, iteration retrospective, all 4 of them, they do it. But only 70% claimed a specific measurable benefit. So what that means is that there's 11% of those people out there who didn't even get what they were going. They didn't get what, they didn't know what they wanted. They couldn't even name it. They couldn't even figure. And so there's a lot of people doing meetings. Oh yeah, because today I did some work. Tomorrow I'm going to do some more work. I got no blockers, no impediments. Can I get promoted now? I mean, so really what this tells us is that we need changes in multiple areas. The meetings aren't going to cut it, because that tends to be the first thing that everybody does. The next thing that's kind of, okay, planning poker isn't the point. 58% of all the Agile people, 58%, that's a significant majority, do Agile estimation. Okay, so 5 points, 7 points, 50,000 points. Oh, okay, there's an outlier. Let's talk about this. But only 51% of all the Agile people got more predictability. And so what does that mean? That means if we're doing planning poker, we're doing points, we're doing it the right way, and we're not predictable any more than we used to be, because predictability almost means something else. It means if you want to hit a date, you got to cut scope. I mean, hi, I'm Jesse. I'm a recovering project manager. If you want to hit that date, yeah, I'm telling you now, flag the nice to haves. They're not going to make it. If you want to hit the date. If you don't need to hit the date, then okay. But it's not about the planning poker. Also, here's another thing that's the flip. That's one side of the coin where some of these agile practices that agile coaches are supposed to install, they're not necessarily a slam dunk for the thing that we're trying to do. Also, what if we break the rules? Because 44% of all agile people don't even have a product owner. 44% have no product owner, but 2/3 of them still saw more stakeholder engagement and stakeholder alignment. How is that possible? How could you possibly have more stakeholder engagement and alignment and satisfaction if you don't have a product owner? Well, what if simply delivering more frequently and faster is enough to score points? What if that's good enough? Also, what if we break the rule about frequent releases? What if we're still doing big bang releases? 49% of all agile people are still doing big bang releases. And yet 2/3 of them still got faster. How is that possible? How could you possibly be faster if you're not deploying every month, let alone every day? How? Well, if we start prioritizing scope, cutting it out, if we have squads with embedded skills and no longer have dependencies, and if we're progressively elaborating our scopes or not wasting time on requirements we're never going to do, we might get this done a little bit sooner. So if you do it right, you may not get the results you're thinking. And if you break some rules, you might still get some results. And so I'd like all of us to agree that by the time we leave, it's not about the practices. If they're violating the Scrum Guide, it's not the point. If they're writing technical user stories, I've seen some people fall on their sword. There's no such thing as a technical user story. I don't care. I care about whether we're getting the results. Because if we shift our gaze, if we raise our gaze away from the day-to-day agile methods, practices, and agreements and all of that stuff, if we raise our gaze to the higher level, the data takes a completely different turn. In the same study, they ask every year, what was the driver for going agile? What was the motivation? Well, changing priorities, go faster, alignment and satisfaction, productivity, quality, predictability, visibility, morale. How many people wanted these things? This is you could pick more than one, obviously. Well, here's the question. Did they get that? Well, for the exact same outcome, the answer is every single time. So if we focus, so changing priorities, 70% got it, but only 64% wanted it. Going faster, 66% got it, but only 64% wanted it. So that's, if you go down the bottom, like the predictability, a majority of people got more predictable with a collection of agile methods rather than any specific agile method, but only 41% even wanted to be more predictable. That's a 24% boost. That's you are 24% more likely to get that outcome than to even want it. In fact, that's actually across all 13 measure outcomes. You are statistically more likely to get a benefit, an organizational outcome, than to even want it. And so if you want to gain credibility as a coach, don't talk about Agile. Talk about results. Don't talk about weighted shortest job first, value stream mapping. Don't talk about PI planning. Don't talk about release trains or tribes or squads. Start the conversation with this slide. What would you like? What do you want? Oh, you want to go faster. Did you know you can go faster and still not have to deploy every single day? Did you know you could do that? Let's talk about some other techniques that we can bring to bear that might add up to faster delivery. I'm so glad we aligned on the whole point of Agile coaching. So the whole point of Agile coaching, the job, is to help drive a result regardless of the method to get it. So I want to give all of you a big high five because all of you were referenced the bottom line. Even Isabella, who called out Agile practices, called that out as a means to an end. So thanks for playing along, Isabella. You weren't the scapegoat. You were the role model. So that's blind spot number one. And that might not be one that you suffer. If it's not, then awesome. I love it. But I wonder if you might be suffering this one. Because we might not agree on how to get to agility. We might not agree on how to get to speed, productivity, predictability, morale. We might not agree on how to get there. So what gets in the way? Well, the report says all the Agile coaches came out and they were asked, what's the number one? This all adds up to 100%. What's the number one challenge that you see your client struggling with right now? And the number one was culture and mindset. This is number one. That the culture and the mindset is the number one barrier to agility. Number two, organizational structure is not suited to Agile. Number three, resistance from management and leadership, resistance to change. 11, it's too aggressive. There's not enough time for this transformation. They want it done yesterday. That's not reasonable. And then there's a little bit of a blip here about, the number one challenge is going remote work and hybrid work. It's a little bit of a blip. It's new. But it turns out that this data is consistent with the research from my book, Untapped Agility. We did a meta study of completely different communities, completely different reports. This was 2 years ago. So it was the 13th State of Agile report, plus also a 2017 State of Scrum, 2017 PMI Pulse of Profession, 2016 Lean Startup, 2017 Forrester State of Agile. And it all adds up to the same thing. So this latest report simply validates a recurring pattern in the industry that we've seen over the last, well, in this case, the last 5 years, 6 years, which is number one, culture and structure get in the way. Number two, insufficient time and resources for the transformation. Number three, inadequate leadership support. Number four, inconsistent and complex processes. That came up, that we got too much Agile going on. It's not coherent. It's not congruent. It's just this all over the place. You got 5 different Agile people going off in different directions. Other one, general resistance to change, existing roles and responsibilities, just not my job. And then some people saying, well, you can't be Agile in government. The context is too hard. You can't do that. You can't do lean startup in construction, except if you are. So these are the barriers. And all of you have known this. All of you have run into this. When you go into the job and you've been saying, can you help us go faster? Can you help us boost the morale? Everyone is burned out, unhappy. Can you help us hit dates, be more predictable, because we're in the advertising industry and we can't slip the Super Bowl? Agile myth number 42, Agile means no more dates. Actually, predictability, we just saw, you're guaranteed to get it, or not guaranteed, you're more likely to get it than to want it. So can you help us do that? Can you help us? And all of you have seen, oh, sure, I'll come on board. I'll help you out with that. And immediately, boom, legacy structure, boom, stiff culture, boom, inadequate time. All of this, we see it all the time. And so what that means is it changes the way we see the journey. The journey that we see is, I'm here and I'm going to bring you with me over there. This is what leadership is. Leadership is being 2 to 3 steps ahead of the followers that you have, ahead of the people that you're leading. You're a couple steps ahead of them. And so come with me to the Agile environment. Come with me. It's going to be amazing. Come on. Come on. And then here's what we see, the brick wall. Culture, wrong, bad domain, change resistance, silo org structure, legacy process, impatience, brick wall. But aren't we the coaches? Aren't we the coaches? So this really got my attention. When I saw this in the report, I had seen this every year coming in and again and again, and I was okay, yeah. But then it's one thing for a Scrum Master to say this. It's one thing for a product owner to say it. It's one thing for a manager to say this it's completely another ball game when the growth mindset coach sees a brick wall here. What if we saw instead the brick road? What if we saw this as the things that we are uniquely skilled to deal with? You want to talk about legacy processes? Sure, I'm going to identify a few of them that we can simply adjust to be more consistent with an agile mindset. You want to talk about the domain? Here's a couple of case studies that are in the industry about how you can totally be agile in a hardware environment or in government. And we just knocked those out of the way. And now we're a little bit closer. And now I'm going to begin coaching on the next brick in the road. Change resistance. Well, because I studied ADCAR, I know that I need to tap into the desire that people, they're natural motivators, they're intrinsic motivators. So what's the WIFM? I'm going to tap into the WIFM for each and one. I'm going to tailor it individually. And while I'm doing that, I'm learning about the culture and I'm giving my leaders talking points. Here's what you need to say publicly about the culture, because I've studied organizational change. Because I've studied organizational change, I know that everyone needs to hear publicly from the highest ranking officer, why are we doing this? And then we knock those out and we get a little bit closer. And so this is the reframe that I'm inviting all of us to. The things that are most agitating, the things that are most annoying, the things that are getting in the way are your job. The brick wall is your job. It is your job to define what's an org structure that supports agility. Here's how we can make incremental steps toward it. It's your job to help leaders understand culture because they've never been trained to understand it. And they don't know how to have conversations around. It's your job to set expectations about what the statistics say about an agile transformation, on average taking 2 years before you see bottom line results. 2 years before you start seeing either more profitability or customer metrics. It's our job to do this. So I'd invite you to view those barriers. Their agile barriers are your coaching backlog. Whatever's agitating, whatever's in the way, this is why you are the more enlightened and equipped person than your average scrum master, your average product owner, your average project manager, product owner. The barriers are your backlog. Blind spot number 3, our audience. So our audience is a little bit difficult. It's hard to kind of get through to some people, isn't it? And it's hard to understand what people really want because they might tell you one thing, but they don't realize they want another thing. And so what do? Well, we do a study. So this just came out from the International Coach Federation, and what they asked 30,000 consumers, 31,000 people across the world in developing countries and developed countries, male and female, and they asked them, you ever had a coach? You ever had any coaching at all of any kind? And here you see in the blue, the answer was there was a plurality that said yes. If you take a look at Gen Z, young millennials, core millennials, mature millennials, a plurality of them said, yes, we have. Would you consider coaching? Most of those who had, or most of them who had not, said, yeah, I might consider it someday. I've never had it. But what you see here is there's a big shift in the data. There's a big shift between millennials and people my age, Gen X. So if you're an 80s kid, you're less likely than millennials to have participated in coaching. And that's interesting. If we plot this a little bit more, if we just look at the trend here, the older you are, the less interested you are in coaching. The less you've participated and less interested, which is particularly problematic when we consider that if your leaders are more likely to be older. They're more likely to be older. So what do we do? We've got this. What this means is we have already the deck is stacked against us already. If we come, I'm an Agile coach. Well, people our age and older can come back and say, yeah, thanks. I'm not interested. Not so much interested. Like a solid 30+%, these are 31%, either not sure they want you or certainly wouldn't consider you. And a vast majority of them haven't even been coached before. They don't know what to expect. I'd consider it, but what's your job again? So how do we reach them? Well, that's the hard part, right? I know. Let's trigger them. So beware your talking points. This is the punchline here is beware your talking points. So if you come in and talk about, we're gonna help build a stronger culture fit for the 21st century. Everyone's gonna be self-organized and empowered to take their own call. I'm Ted, the team lead. I've been in this company for 20 years. I've been a team lead for 15, and you're gonna tell me they're gonna self-organize? My value as a professional is in my contribution. My value is being hands-on. If we're going to go in this direction, what am I worth anymore? Does your process mean I lose my job? Ladies and gentlemen, I've met Agile coaches. I've met certified Agile coaches who say, yeah, Agile means layoffs because all of you are command and control. You're useless. You're a relic of the past. Goodbye. That doesn't sound like a coaching mindset that values the inherent divinity and creativity of all human beings. If you truly want to exhibit a coaching mindset, then the person who's like Ted, the team lead, you want to have some empathy for Ted, the team who feels threatened at his value as a human being. Because I'm coming in here talking about self-organizing and power, command and control. That's not an Agile mindset. You're not a servant leader. Isn't it great? I'm here to tell you all of your sins. Repent for the Agile coaches at hand. Also, what if we're not necessarily triggering? We're just irritating. Okay, I'm 2 years from retirement. What's in it for me? Because you're talking about going, iterative, incremental. You're talking about like get value out the door. Yeah, you're talking about changing everything we've ever done to be completely different. That's exhausting. I don't want to spend all my creative energy at office doing that. I want to spend my creative energy planning for the garden that I'm going to be sowing in my 12 acres that I just bought in my retirement farm. That's where my creative energy goes as a human being. You want me to invest? This is irritating. This is not what I had in mind. So Eric, thank you for your text right there. Esther Derby's rule number 2, honor the past, present, and the people. So yeah, how about we honor Marie, the manager? She's 2 years from retirement. I was talking to both, check this out. This month, I was talking to a Fortune 500 CEO who said 70% of his 15,000 employees are 2 years from retirement. And they want to be digital. What do we do? A CIO for a public school system said the same thing. And so you want to talk about unhappy corporate employees 2 years from retirement? Now let's talk about unhappy government employees 2 years from retirement. So how do we honor them? How can we create a respectful and dignified opt-out strategy? What's a role that they can play where they can add value without having to fundamentally redefine their job description, their skill set? And that's got to be a collaborative coaching conversation, isn't it? Or Emmett the executive, where sometimes we're so smart and so skilled, we create blindness. So hi, Agile coach here, WSGIF, WHIP, VSM. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, says Emma the executive. That's all sounds very interesting. I'm glad you shared with me the fluid dynamics and the queuing theory. But how does that help me with my gridlock? So are we in our talking points accidentally, unintentionally triggering somebody's threat response? Are we accidentally, unintentionally irritating somebody and not connecting with them on an empathetic level? And are we accidentally, unintentionally confusing everybody? So, Agile coach, beware your audience blind spots. Speak the native tongue of your audience, especially as they're a little bit older. They're not going to be interested in coaching. So we need to be even more intentional about connecting to them. Which brings me to the last blind spot, which is our skills. So here's the positive note here. The positive tone is that we are the solution. We are absolutely the solution. Because so ICF on its homepage actually defines coaching as this. This is the so we saw the Agile coach definition. Here's the ICF definition. Coaching is partnering with clients in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. So the verbs there, partnering, inspiring, maximizing, those are the verbs. And so that means that we're the solution. We're going to come alongside them, not behind them, because then we're not going to bring our full assertive creative capacity, not in front of them, kind of being sage on the stage, but beside them. And our job is to inspire them some way, usually by tapping into their intrinsic motivators, not by manipulation, not by bribing, not carrots and sticks, but tapping into their intrinsic motivators. We are the solution. And here's another good news in that state of coaching report. We do have some knowledge. Thank you very much. This is fascinating. Check this out. Nearly 3 out of 4 Agile coaches hold multiple certifications. In fact, if you look at it, almost half of us, 49%, or is it 47%, have 4 or more certifications. You believe that? I know some of y'all on this guy have, if I know y'all, all y'all certified in something. A third of you only have 2 certifications, maybe 3. Oh, I'm so sorry. But practically half of us have 4 or more. That's crazy. Not only that, but nearly half of us, 47%, invest 3 days or more per month in professional growth and development and learning. We have knowledge. And in fact, the report says we need that knowledge because the complexity of transformation today calls upon a deeper level of skill than the coaching that was needed 10 years ago. Just 10 years ago, or even 15 years ago, scaling agility was a very new topic. 15 years ago, it was not fully matured. 15 years ago, we were still coaching teams. Today, we're coaching entire organizational transformation. That's a deeper level of skill. So we not only have a lot of knowledge, we not only seek a lot of knowledge, but we need it. Except we might not have it where we most need it, which is in the skill of coaching itself. This is the most shocking insight out of all of the data that I saw coming in tonight. 81% of all Agile coaches have no training in coaching. Oh, we're good in Agile. You just saw it. 4 certifications. I'm a certified Kanban facilitator, certified I'm a scaled program consultant. Thank you very much. I know all there is to know about the end state. Also a certified Scrum master of ceremonies and certified, generally Agile awesome. PMI ACP, all of it, right? We know our Agile, but how much have we studied in the actual psychology of change? either on a human psychology level or on an organizational industrial psychology. And so what that means is we have a gap, we have a training gap. Moreover, only the master coaches have actually studied training. And in particular, the people who had a coach certification of some kind were 3 times more likely to be at the master level of certification. The master level is the IC Agile expert, the certified enterprise coach, the master certified coach from ICF. If you happen to have any training in coaching, you're probably already considered a thought leader already, which means that the other 2/3 to 3/4 of all Agile coaches who are just regular people like you and me are much more likely not to have been trained in any psychological change dynamics or organizational change dynamics at all. Okay, good. Okay, so let's fix that, right? Let's fix it. Okay, that's a gap, but isn't the Agile mindset all about learning? Well, let's take a look at our education goals. So our education goals were also listed there. The same study that found the training gap listed it. So 50% knowledge, better serve, wiser serve. The 50% do want to look at professional coaching skills. 36% broader, more agile. A third of us, we've got 4 certifications, but a third of us still want more agile. 24% facilitate skills, teaching and mentoring, consulting, product owner skills, all that good stuff. But look closely here. And what you're going to notice is that 50% is not nearly close to the 80% who need it. 50% are interested in coaching. 80% have 0 skill or training in it. So what that means is that 80% of Agile coaches are untrained in coaching, but only half of us care about that being an issue at all. That is the definition of a blind spot, a gap that you don't see or care about. So that's what I wanted to challenge all of us with. So what should we do? We should go get some coach training. I'm proud to announce that your host, your facilitator, Meenakshi Punjabi, just submitted her application for Associate Certified Coach with the International Coach Federation. She has 60 hours of formal coach training. That's what we need to do. We need to go seek out, what does it mean to have coach training and understand the psychology of personal change and the industrial and organizational psychology of organizational change. And that, ladies and gentlemen, were the 4 key points. Number 1, our mandate blind spot. Our job is not to install Agile practices and ways of working. Our job is to help people achieve outcomes, which most of you called out in the poll. Our pathway is not blocked by barriers. Our pathway is paved by them. The barriers are the backlog. Our audience as coaches is one where the older they are, the more influence they have, the less interested they are in coaching. So we need to be much more conscious and aware of our talking points and the WIFM and the connection, honoring them and where they are. Our skills blind spot is very much about coaching itself. All of you here could probably talk me under the table with your Agile knowledge. Awesome. You could probably talk your CIO under the table with your Agile knowledge. But what does it mean to go through the neurology of change on a human level? That's something that we collectively as a community don't know a lot about, and we need to grow deeper in. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to just kind of close out with a quick note. I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't tell you that this is something that I care about. And so if you're interested, we are trying to run a 3-month cohort coming this fall, where if you want to go deeper on the neurology and the psychology of change and what does it mean to be an Agile leader, advanced Agile leadership certified advanced agile leadership is going to be opening up here this fall. And you can register your interest now to get the big announcement when we do open up. So that's what I wanted to share with all of you today. Thank you so much for listening. We got time for some questions and some dialogue. So I'm gonna take it over to you, Meenakshi. Just what questions, comments captured your attention so far?
We don't have any questions yet in the chat, so I'd recommend people can come off mute if they have anything, come on camera, or put it in the chat.
Well, I'd like to share one of the things that I've run into over a period of time is people that basically have self-anointed themselves as coaches. They decided, well, I've been Scrum Master long enough. I need to go ahead and promote myself. And there's definitely a lot of that going on. And the other big thing that I look at is the fact that even with large organizations, when you go ahead and look at Agile transformation, they're only counting what framework they took, how many teams they've got going on, and whether it's going Agile or whatever. And the point is, what is the problem to be solved? Agile goals should basically not be about adding another Agile team, adding a framework. It's about creating business outcomes. And so that is one of the things that I generally focus on, is what is the problem to be solved? Because we definitely know we have a lot of things that are going to get in our way.
Good
So
call.
understanding the problem to be solved is
Yeah.
basically what I use as a guide in moving forward. And also the other thing that really annoyed the hell out of me is hearing, okay, well, we don't need managers anymore. My feeling is, well, you don't know squat. Very simply because
You know, Jim, there's a book that I think everybody might be interested called one book, Work Rules. This was written by the head of HR at Google, and about the no managers policy at Google. They tried it. They actually tried it, and it was a complete train wreck. So Jim, you're right on the money.
Yeah.
The people that
So-
try that, it doesn't go well.
Yeah. So if I could just say a couple of more things. One of the things that I drive home is the fact that teams and individuals on these teams can go ahead and improve themselves. And they can go ahead and do work much better. But what they can't resolve is environmental impediments. And that is the job of management, to solve those impediments. As a matter of fact, I shared that with a director at Capital One after I actually went ahead and did a retrospective, and I shared what went on, because people didn't want to rat out another team. I said, you're not ratting out a team. If this team's as good as you are, it's the environment that's holding them back. And when I shared that with the director, and he says, send me the impediments. And it was like the light went on. He finally figured out what his role was and what the role of his managers were to go ahead and remove environmental impediments.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. I see Matthias's hand is raised.
Hey, Jesse, thanks for gracing us with your one of your presentations. Been looking forward to this for a while now. My question is, how do you see those blind spots evolving as the coach is focusing on an organization that is beyond the whole, we need to transform now? They're further along the way. That transformation is not even something that they even say anymore. They're more about, they realize that they have outcomes that they need to focus on, and they realize there is a need for Agile coaching. And how do those blind spots evolve in that situation? Thank you.
Well, so Matthias, thanks for being here and thanks for asking the question. It's a good question, because I think what you're leaning in is do these blind spots vary based on the stage of the transformation, based on the maturity of the Agile environment? And I would say, not necessarily. I think that this is something that we need to pay consistent attention to. We need to consistently look in the mirror and ask ourselves, what assumptions am I bringing into my job? So for example, if they're well on the way and we flagged the organization, we're creating cross-functional teams, and we've got, by some accounts, 63% of all employees are now working in Agile ways of working. Actual metric a CIO wanted to use as measure. How many employees are in Agile ways of working? On the other hand, are we still getting those outcomes? Are we any faster than we have been before? What's our project throughput? Are we completing projects, AKA epics, at the same rate that we did before we did this? Or is it the same? What's our employee satisfaction scores right now? And so I'd still be interested in that, because you might find that there's remember, 2 years before you start seeing lift on some of those things. It's a long haul. Number one. Number two, you're still going to be running into the late adopters. So if everybody's familiar with the early adopters, early majority, late majority curve, there's still going to be the late majority and the late adopters in any organization.
Laggards.
And then the laggards. And we've got to be able to engage them where they are. So I would say that, Matthias, that this is not something that once they get to a certain, there you go. Once they get to a certain stage of maturity, that does not put me off the hook for not looking at my own maturity. And this is actually something I've noticed in my journey as a coach, is that the people, my mentees, my coach clients, they need me to continue growing so that there's room for them to grow up into. So whether it's more knowledge, whether it's deeper insights, whether it's more humility. So as I evolve, it creates space for the people around me to evolve. If I'm only here and then I bring them up to my level of the complexity of my heart and mind, my spiritual maturity, then they're going to go look for someone else to grow. Because how many of you have once had a mentor that you passed by? How many of you outgrew a mentor? I have. I've outgrown several mentors. Now there's a few that I haven't outgrown, and I hold on to them because they keep growing. So that's a really good question, Matthias. I would say be careful of letting yourself off the hook just because they're getting successful.
Thank you so much, Jesse.
Thank you, Matthias. We have a question about what after Cal 1 might be the next certification.
So the CAL, the Certified Agile Leadership Program from the Scrum Alliance, used to be called Cal 1. They renamed it and incrementalized it into 3 different programs for teams, organizations, and leadership essentials. If you've gone through that, then you're probably ready for the Advanced Agile Leadership Program, which is the one that we're getting ready to announce. You're the first people to hear about Fewell Innovation, us putting on one of these things. But you don't have to do it with us. The Agile Leadership Journey people that I'm partnering with, they're hosting it as well. There's a couple of other providers. Also, the International Consortium for Agile has a business agility set of certifications that also challenge you to grow in your Agile leadership skills too. So you don't have to go through the Scrum Alliance. You can also go through IC Agile. So do a little bit of homework on that. But so the quick answer is after Cal 1 comes Cal 2. And if you want to get more info on that, just click on the link, give me your email. I'll give you more info.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you. I see a hand raised. iPhone, Nana. I'm
Nana,
sorry, I can't say the other.
Nana Kwedu.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, Nana. What's on your mind?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, Yeah, hello. Could you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether we are going to get certification for participation.
Not a certification per se, but if you want, do already have a Scrum Alliance certification, this counts as continuing credits, continuing education for whatever certification you do have. It also counts for as a PDU if you happen to have a PMI certification. And again, if you need some details for that or some help, you can reach out to any of us, and we can point you to some resources on that. So no
I'm
new
asking
certification
whether-
today, Nana, but definitely some credits for renewing one if you have it.
Oh, okay. I was wondering about maybe
I
there
just
for
have a-
participation.
Thank you. I heard one more sound.
Yes,
Sasan
it
has
was me,
hand raised.
Ravinder. I just had a question.
Go ahead, Ravinder.
Just have a question about the PDU that he mentioned. So I have the for the Cal 1, before Cal 1, I'm actually doing the coaching course through Scrum Alliance. So if he mentioned something about the 3 or 4 coaching courses through Scrum Alliance. So if I do that and wait on the Cal 1, once you guys announce that in fall, is that going to be a credit also that towards?
Yeah. So Ravinder, I'd
the
recommend that you just send me an email
Okay.
and pin down your question in an email, and then
Okay.
I can give you some technical guidance on the certification.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
but I do want to say to Nanu and Ravinder, thank you for paying attention. Thank you for paying attention to the presentation where I challenged all of us to expand our coaching skill set.
Thank you.
Sasan, my friend.
Thank you.
Hey, Jesse. How you doing? Great presentation as always. Great. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Appreciate it for the knowledge. One thing I like actually to bring up to this conversation, as you mentioned, so many organizations, they actually hire the Agile coaches based on job description. Job description talks about the process, right?
Yes.
Talks about the skill sets. So the notion of the actually Agile certificate and also the process comes from that notion. Somehow we join the organization based on those actually criteria. They hire us, we go through the hiring process, but process is not for the sake of the process. The things that I just wanted actually to confirm that your approach, that process could be bent and the flexible as many other processes we have in any other practice in the world, right? And
Yeah.
I think that's a very true assessment that we need to focus on the outcome, because I had very similar conversation with one of the senior directors I was actually working with his team. He said very simply, okay, Agile coach, if I unplug you, do I have any changes to my team or portfolio? Great question. And he
Yeah.
says that, okay, you asked me to follow the best practice of Scrum, right? Ceremonies. Okay, does it actually give me the better quality, better actually code? If I do not do that, does it give me the better code? So these are the very valid point, and I like actually to bring up to this conversation, even if the organization hire us, because Agile coaches normally is expensive positions to fulfill, we shouldn't actually just stick with the job description.
So this is a powerful question, Sasan, because ladies and gentlemen, what he's asking is, how do we deal with the friction, the conflict of interest, the contradiction, that's the word. How do we deal with the contradiction where on the one hand, we know we just talked about what our true calling as an Agile coach is, which is not what the job description is. Certainly not what the job posting is. How do we reconcile this misalignment about what we know to be the true calling, but what they think they're buying? And for that, I have a metaphor, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you've all heard of the proverb of beware the wolf in sheep's clothing. I'd like to flip that around, and I'd like to challenge all of you to become the sheep in wolves' clothing. So be the virtuous monk dressed like a businessman. Be the predatorial or be the dressed like a predatorial agile consultant wolf, but knowing inside that you have the heart of a compassionate and accommodative and empathetic sheep. So the answer is a yes and. The answer is when you go through the job hunting process and the interview process and all of that, you're going to align to their expectations, but then also reveal a higher depth, a higher set of perspective. And so even in the meeting, you can raise your gaze. You can say, oh yeah, we can install work in process limits, and we can install multiple swim lanes on your Kanban board. We can also talk about a replenishment cadence on your Kanban queue. But I think what you're really going for here is more throughput. I think what you're really going for here is get more done. Is that fair to say? Because I hear you really concerned about Kanban, and I'm just want to make sure that you know that I can look beyond to the higher order of things. Suddenly now you're shining brightly. You're shining apart from all the other candidates who are like, okay, 7 practices in Kanban, so you have to visualize, and then you have to, and you're already saying, yes, I know that. Give me the quiz, I will pass. But I also bring a greater depth. So be the sheep in wolves' clothing, Sasan.
Great point. Thank you, Jesse, as always. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sasan. We have a question from Taz.
Taz, I'm loving your profile picture here in Zoom.
Hey, Jesse, how are you?
What's up?
Great presentation. My first time actually sitting in on a presentation from you. I can't wait to be a part of others. I want to thank you for this presentation. It taught me a lot, but one thing it really did is it taught me to fish. It was much more than just about, giving me it and, that fish and you feeding me for a day, but you're really teaching me how to fish. And so many of the things that you expounded are exactly the things I'm challenged with at my organization, because I do see myself as sort of that monk in business clothing, and it can be challenging, right? But yeah, you're so right. It's so beyond the practices, and it's so much more than that. But you're right. You have to sort of get through the job description, get through the interview, and then that's where you can really make impact. So ultimately, I'm always thinking well beyond that interview, well beyond that job description. So I just want to thank you again for this great stuff here.
Thank you, Taz. Thanks for chiming in.
I'll take 2 more questions from the chat, and then if people want to leave, they can leave. I'm sorry we're extending, but Jesse's popular. What do we do?
Well, and yeah, to Meenakshi's point, we're going to honor everyone who wants to drop off. We've already had a few people drop off because, time and life, but we're going to keep hanging out here for a few more minutes. So Meenakshi, we have 2 more people with their hands up, but before we get to them, who do we want to answer in the chat window?
Hey, as people are dropping off, maybe quickly we can announce the upcoming topic and also do our thank you note. And then whoever wants to hang out can hang out. It's a party. After party with Jesse.
Okay. I'll let Toby do the honors. I did the welcoming.
Sure. So for our August event, we are actually getting somebody all the way from England, UK rather, John, and he is an author and a really senior agilist who's going to be talking about lean portfolio management. So we will be announcing and putting up all the event details tonight, and tomorrow we'll also be publishing on LinkedIn. So we would like to welcome all of you to that. On behalf of everybody who joined, I would like to thank Jesse. Jesse has been a big supporter of Enterprise Agility Champs, as well as all other meetups in this area. Thank you, Jesse. Hats off to you. Thanks, everybody, for attending. The party is on. Jesse is still here. Anybody who wants to hang out, ask more questions. But I just wanted to get the formal thank you out of the way. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Toby. So in interest of time, we have two questions in the chat. One is from Shauna. How do we handle coaching organizations that are really focused on doing Agile and calling that good enough for their Agile transformation? What tactics can we try to influence those in charge that being Agile is where the magic is at?
So Shauna, it's just this is probably the most popular question, the most common question among Agile coaches in the entire community. How do we move from doing Agile to being Agile? We just talked about how doing Agile wrongly means you still might get some results, and doing Agile rightly means you might not get the results that you wanted. We just talked about that. We also talked about how, you know, the barriers to doing Agile properly might actually be the brick road that gets you to the state of awesomeness. So how do we reconcile that? And what I'd like to say is that it's a false choice. The being doing is a false choice. Let me give you an example. I'm somebody. If I were to tell you that that you just need to be more self-confident, you really do. You know, you need to change your mindset. Here's my invoice as a coach. You're welcome. I just told you what to do. I told you, and I didn't even tell you what to do. I told you what to be. You need to be Agile mindset. You need to be iterative and incremental in your soul. You're welcome. I will take all any applause. I would contend you can't be anything until after you've ingrained it into your basal ganglia, a literally different part of your brain, until it becomes part of who you are after time. This is why the Zen masters are spending significant amounts of time of day in their personal spiritual practice, doing mindful meditation, doing chanting, going for walks. What is it? Carry water, chop wood. Carry water, chop wood. And you know, like, you just need to be more balanced. Okay, what does that mean? Well, maybe I actually try to give up something. I start journaling. I start putting on my refrigerator a list of the things that I want to do every day, and the things that I'm going to remind myself not to do. So I would say that you can't get to being without first doing. Not only that, but doing, you can't even do that without first knowing. Particularly in the world of adult development. The world of adult development, I'm not going to be comfortable trying something until I know enough about it to try it. And then once I try it and I get into a routine and I start building new neural pathways, the intentional effort comes from the prefrontal cortex. This is like when you start a new commute. When you start a new commute in your car and you're paying attention to the turns, your left hand, over the course of time, that routine, it becomes habit. It moves into a different part of your brain where it consumes less ATP, less glucose. And so because of that, now I'm just commuting. Am I doing a left-hand turn, right-hand turn? Am I stop? No, I'm just commuting to work. Those of us who still go to an office. And so that's that. I think that's the sheer practice of it. This is why one CEO, wink, nod, Shauna, one CEO says, you know, I don't care what your outcomes are, but we need 80% of you in an Agile way of working by the end of the year, because we need a new operational reality. We need to change what we do in order to become who we want to be. And so I think the answer is patience. It sucks, but at the end of the day, it's really, this is the fundamental challenge of being a transformational leader or a transformational coach. And it's this, it's being impatient with the status quo, we got to change, we got to get better, we got to change our mindset and our belief system, but then patient with the people in it at the same time. So that as they're growing and evolving, I can look back and say, oh man, I just wish you were over here in Agile mindset land like I am. I wish you were here in Agile being land like I am, but you're still stuck in trying to do it right, color by numbers, perfect compliance. That's okay. That's where you are. It's going to take time, just the way it took us time. We did not get to Agile being overnight. It took us a while. So this is the most common, most pointed question in the entire Agile community. And John, I give you a ton of credit for bringing it up because it is a challenge. It's an emotional challenge for us to be patient with the people that are in the change, but impatient with letting them off the hook and not letting them give up and just continuing to help them move to the next step.
Thank you, Shauna. Jesse, one more question from the chat, and then we'll go to the hands raised. And Ricardo asks, I loved your sentence, are we here to help or to trigger? I usually describe our role as the initiator or as the jiggler, see what shakes. How do you deal with the strong marketing arm of SAFe and Scrum, which in the mind of large percentage of people became the truth, the only way and best synonym of Agile?
Yeah. So Ricardo, thanks for joining. So I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it. Okay. SAFe and Scrum are awesome for beginners. Arguably, they're the best choice for beginners because it offers you guidance, explicit, detailed kind of guidance. And it satisfies the anxiety that comes from, I need to know, particularly in cultures that score very high in doing things right. I may have shared with this community before about the competing values framework as a culture instrument. But if you score very high on doing things right, then as an organization, we have a neurological need for specific details. I can't tell you how many times I've done a workshop and we've spent 3 days going into the details. This is what you do. This is how you do it. And this is it. And then we get feedback at the end saying, it really should have been more specific. Really should have had a lot more implementation details. I'm just, are you kidding me right now? And so SAFe and Scrum are excellent options for the people that need that. And that goes back to Shauna's point, which is it's super agitating to us as coaches who are way over here to have to let them go through the journey of doing it right by the book, quoting the Scrum Guide, chapter and verse. And the Scrum Guide says that we have to ask these questions. No, it doesn't. That's the old version of the Scrum Guide because there's been a new revelation from the mountain of awesome. Okay. And we're going to be patient with them because that's part of the learning process. So the question that you're asking, I think the next question is, well, then how do I compete with that? I don't think you necessarily need to compete. I think you go where the wind is blowing. Set your sail and go where the wind is blowing. So if you have a client that already has a SAFe install and they like your voice as a coach and they like your values as a spiritual person, then go in and speak the native tongue of your audience and say, safety, safe, trains, engineers, PI, SPC. What do you want? And so if you're speaking the native tongue of your audience and you're honoring where they are in their stage of development, then that might earn you the right to challenge them to a higher order of reflection. And so Toby mentioned safe bashing is an official sport on LinkedIn. I have a lot of love for the Scaled Agile organization. There's just like Scrum can be either a virtue or a vice, SAFe is also a tool that can be a virtue or a vice. So thank you, Ricardo. Hopefully that was helpful.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I do not know who raised their hand first, Dave or Cliff.
I think it was Dave.
Okay, awesome. Dave?
Hi, Jesse. First time listener, first time caller. At any rate, you pretty much stole my thunder, but yeah, I mean, you really just did such a great job of covering like the entire ball field. I have to hand it to you. I don't think anybody has done that good of a job of covering kind of everything in such a short period of time. When I do Scrum Master and Agile coaching, so you had just mentioned talking about being Agile, or I would say more so Scrum. So what I found that's important is, and it took me a long time to figure this out, many years, people need the repetition, just like you were saying, and then all of a sudden the light goes off. But it's for a lot of people, you have to tell them the same exact thing 20 to 30 times. The other aspect of that is, and once they see the light, you can see it in their faces that they finally, quote unquote, get it. And then they're being Agile versus doing Agile. But it's like going to school, right? You can't learn everything in first and second grade. You got to go all the way up to 12th and beyond. So you
can't do calculus until you learn how to do long division.
Yeah, exactly. And what's really interesting that you mentioned that my daughter is going to be going to school for nothing whatsoever that has to do with mathematics. But I wanted her to get at least up to calculus. So I often hear this from children all the time when they say, why do I need calculus? And what I say to them is, all the years of schooling that you've done in mathematics, if you don't take calculus, you never understand what it was all for. Calculus makes everything in mathematics clear as to why you were doing it, even though you may never use it in your job. And most of us, even as electrical engineers, probably never ever use it because there's so much automation.
Don't say that out loud.
It just brings everything together. It's being versus doing. That's what I see calculus to mathematics.
So Dave, I'm going to build on that and offer this, because you mentioned that as coaches, we might end up having to repeat what somebody else has said. We might end up having to repeat ourselves 15 times, 20 times. You might be in the same planning meeting and just, good Lord, people, do you not understand? You cannot commit to more than what you can do. Seriously, this is the 40th sprint in a row where you have overcommitted. This looks like a learning disability. Serenity now, serenity now. And so you're repeating yourself again and again and again.
It's actually hard not to do what you just did. It is, you have to hold yourself back. And it took me many years to figure that out. And one of the things that I wanted to ask about maybe for the future is, I would like to learn, and I always ask this in all of these type of meetups, what are these soft skill techniques that work? What are just some basic soft skill techniques? Because the other thing that I found is that if you come in there and you try to change it really quickly, you get that hard wall of resistance that you were talking about.
Yeah.
But
so Dave,
if you sit back and you take your time and they get to know you and you just listen to them, and over time you introduce slowly doing things for change. It's frustrating, but it works, but it just takes a long time.
So Dave, let me offer two thoughts to you. Number one, that whole thing about repeating again and again. Here's a phrase for all of you to kind of consider, which is, she who sows the seeds may not reap the rewards.
Exactly.
May not reap the harvest. So what I've noticed is a lot of coaches come in to a completely new environment, and they sow seeds, and it's a year, it's 2 years, it's 3 years, it's 4 years, and just good Lord. And then eventually you move on, or you move to a different department or something. And then here comes new person who says the same things, and now suddenly it's working. And you're just like, what's going on there? And so what's going on there is that sometimes you might be the one to sow the seeds, but someone else is going to harvest the yield. To answer the second question, and you have to be cool with that. You have to be cool with being the person who sows, but having somebody else reap the reward and knowing that you played your part in the universal story. Or you need to be cool with the fact that you're coming in and reaping a harvest off of somebody else's labor and not feel any guilt, but feel like you were there for that time in that moment. So the second thought, like, what are some soft skills that are going to be helpful? Well, we're talking about coach skills today. That was the skills gap. And so coach skills, number one, is like, what is our agreement on what coaching is going to be about? How often would you like us to meet? What are the things you would like me to help you with? How do you like being held accountable? That's a coaching alliance. Another one is powerful questions, where as a coach, I'm going to be uniquely skilled at asking you the tough questions. In the chat window, we posted a link to one of the best books to get started in coaching soft skills. And that book is called The Coaching Habit. It's my favorite starter. Alsma, thanks for coming. And so the Coaching Habit is a great book to start with because it just offers you 7 questions. That's all you need. And the first question is about building that coaching agreement. What's on your mind? How do you want to, what do you want to talk about? Where do we go? So that's what I wanted to offer. Two thoughts there. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Great
We can go
presentation.
to Cliff. Thank you, Dave. We can go to Cliff.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Jess. I'm a Scrum Master first and foremost, so I was just very inquisitive, and that's why I got into this platform. And as the questions keep coming, it keeps building up the question I have to ask. So looking at an Agile coach in an organization being responsible for outcome, and a Scrum Master in a team should also focus on outcome. And in my own experience, this question is particularly to myself. The Scrum Guide provides like 13 pages for this, what you're supposed to follow for the framework. And a Scrum Master, all through getting to an organization, is supposed to continuously learn, outperform, improve, and assumes different roles, like as a mentor, as a coach, and as a teacher, be it whatever level the organization is. Now, at what level does the Scrum Master, me as a person, do you cap and say, okay, this is the skill of a Scrum Master and this is the skill of an Agile coach? Because the problem we first pointed out is people assuming themselves as Agile coach. Now, I want to give a case scenario on myself. I'm a very inquisitive person. And when I saw this link about a week ago, I put it on my calendar and I came in here. And I get to expand my knowledge, read a lot of books, and try to outgrow or perform or try to be proactive for my team and assume these roles. Growing in these skills, I will feel like sometimes a Scrum Master might feel that they are a coach. Where does the line draw?
Yeah. So Cliff, this is a really relevant question in the marketplace.
Right.
Because a lot of Scrum Masters are trained. They're trained and told you are the team coach. That a Scrum Master, in fact, if you go through some Scrum Master training programs, they actually teach you coaching skills that you can use in your role. And so there's a difference between a coaching skill and a coach job position. A coaching skill, like we mentioned, is setting agreements about what we want to do, how we want to work together, powerful questions, designing a personal development plan, and an organizational and change. And so those are skills. But a job for an Agile coach usually means that you're growing your span of impact outside of just one team. So in the industry, we've used the job title coach to differentiate between a single team Scrum Master versus a multi-team coach. So like a release train engineer is an example of an Agile coach because they facilitate multiple teams collaborating. Example, a squad leader, a tribe leader is an example of an Agile coach who's facilitating multiple teams working together. That's one difference. The other difference is where a Scrum Master is focusing on helping a team grow and improve themselves. Because I'm now a coach job title helping multiple teams, I'm now needing to learn more about organizational design. That's a new skill. Organizational change and helping helping managers, helping executives. So I'm now not just increasing the span of my impact, but I'm also going higher up in the organizational hierarchy with my audience. And so there is a similarity in skill set, Scrum Master, Agile coach, but there is a difference in the job title in the industry. Scrum Master is more of a junior, no, I wouldn't say junior, it's more of a mid-level role, helping a single team, whereas an Agile coach is more of a senior level role, helping multiple teams. So instead of 10 people on a single team, maybe you're helping 30, 40, 50, or 100 people at the same time. So Cliff, hopefully that was helpful. Similar skills, but a different scale of impact, a different scale of responsibility, and a different and more senior executive audience.
I think they changed the Scrum Guide actually to address that with Scrum Master. Now you're supposed to also be a coach of the organization in 2020, I believe.
Yeah, for the last couple of times, there's been the challenge that a Scrum Master serves the organization. And so as a Scrum Master serving the organization, what you might do is you might just go around being, hey, I'm the only Scrum Master here. I'm the first one here where there's only one team using Scrum. Anybody who's interested in learning about it, I'm going to serve you by sharing about it. I'm going to serve you by giving you some suggestions, but my primary accountability is to my team and my product owner here.
Yep.
So there is that challenge to help the ecosystem around a team for the purpose of helping the team, as opposed to an Agile coach, which is focused on adjusting several dials to help the overall organization. So good call, Dave. Good catch.
And we'll just do the last question for today.
Last one.
Yes, last one, going once, going twice. Okay, so Stella says, thank you for this presentation. And I'm not an Agile coach. I'm a Scrum Master. I'm in an organization where they had an Agile transformation coach come in to help transform. But the team/management has a different understanding. It hasn't been easy getting the buy-in from management. I'm having a lot of resistance. Please advise me on the best way to go about this. I'm open to learn more. Thank you.
Stella, thank you. Thank you for sticking around, Stella. All right. So much credit and appreciation for you hanging out, listening to everybody else, and being the last and most interesting question. Not the most interesting, but you know what I'm saying. Stella's question is super powerful because this is another blind spot. This is another Agile coach blind spot, or a Scrum Master blind spot, or an Agile manager blind spot. And it's simply this: my Agile is not your Agile. Agile means that all of you are out of control and completely all over the place. So we're going to install sprints to get you inside a regular fixed cadence with explicit definition of done criteria and explicit sprint planning capacity, because you people are all over the place. Agile means control. Agile means so isn't it great that now we're going to track everything in the Kanban board? We're going to have metrics so that we know what the heck is going on with all of you crazy people. That doesn't sound like the Agile over here. Agile is about empowerment and me doing whatever I want to do. Agile is about us talking a lot. And, that's a little bit too aggressive. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take an extra amount of analysis time and making sure we have a shared understanding of what's expected. Agile means do what I want. So what we have is a misalignment. I believe that agility at the end of the day is in the eye of the beholder. Does it mean which outcome? So remember, we said target those 13 outcomes: speed to market, productivity, predictability, alignment, morale, cost, whatever it is that you want to improve. You want to target that, and then design the Agile that comes from that. And what you're going to do, if you were to take a vote of these 13, you might be surprised that the two managers over there said Agile means speed to market. But over here, the 15 employees said Agile means sustainable pace. Who wins? Now we need to have a conversation. We need to have a conversation so that management gets what it wants, but the team also gets what it wants. I literally just finished a report about this today that I'm going to be giving to a tech organization tomorrow, where management is just like, you people, and meanwhile, everybody else is just like, I don't know what his problem is. I was just seeing it as a problem. It's a good thing we're Agile here, because we're going Agile, because Agile means get the crazy manager under control. Meanwhile, the manager, man, these people, they're insane. They're not doing any work. It's a good thing we're going Agile so we can put all those employees under control. So what I would recommend, Stella, is that as a coach or as a Scrum Master who is going to show a coaching mindset and a coaching skill, what I would recommend you do is that you acknowledge the virtue in everyone's opinion, because everyone has a point. Yes, agility is about being more effective and more higher performance. But what does that mean for you? What does it mean for you? And what you might find is that there are some things we can agree on. So we might agree, yeah, let's do 3-week sprints. 3-week sprints, yeah, I think that's a good idea, because I like limiting my commitment to just 3 weeks. Well, it's also a good idea for this person because I know I get something in 3 weeks. Okay, so that might be a technique that can each give us what we want, even though we disagree on which is more important. So that's what we would do. We would facilitate a dialogue with the different opinion holders and try to find some common ground. So that way we don't have to convince anybody of anything. It's never going to work if I try to force you to think what I think. Instead, we want to ask powerful questions, read the book, The Coaching Habit, that help just get underneath what is it that you're going for, and why are they triggering you, and what do you see? What do you see that we don't see? Those questions might reveal the hidden assumptions and might also reveal the hidden agreements. Hopefully that was helpful, Stella.
With that, we will say thank you to thank you, Jesse, for staying back. This is the longest we've had a guest who was willing to stay back and share their knowledge beyond the presentation.
Do we have to pay you more now?
Yes, my fee has just doubled from 0 to 0.
Overtime.
Yes.
So
Just send us an invoice, okay?
Yes, indeed. Thanks so much, ladies and gentlemen, for hanging out. Thank you for listening. And thank you for responding to the call to help the workplace, to help the world of work be a better place as Agile coaches. And thank you, Toby and Meenakshi, for hosting this community so that we can help each other do amazing things.
Thank you for
Thank
always
you,
sharing
Jesse.
your wisdom, Jesse. So grateful. Matthias, Ricardo, everyone, thank you for coming. It's been a while.
Go
Thanks.
get dinner. Bye-bye.
Bye, all. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Jesse.